So I had a chance to test out the Canon R5C in a real-world production setting, and I wanted to see if it lives up to that cinema badge. Now, if you guys have not seen the short film that we did, go ahead and check out the link down below in the description. It's a psychological thriller that I think you guys will enjoy. Now, what is a Canon R5C supposed to be? Is it a photo camera, a cinema camera, or a hybrid camera? And don't we already have the Canon R5? The answer to all of those questions is yes. In fact, this may be the very first true hybrid camera ever made, but we'll talk about that more in a second. Now, at first glance, you'll notice that the R5C looks very similar to the R5, and it kind of makes you wonder, did Canon just grab a little C emblem and pop this on here and call it a cinema camera? Surprisingly, not quite. There's actually some pretty decent upgrades that Canon has done with the R5C, and the most obvious, and you'll kind of notice it because it's a little bit chunkier, is the cooling fans. Because we all know what happened with the Canon R5. Sorry, Canon, you cannot make that disappear. Almost done. So the cooling fan is Canon's answer to that. Now, in our production, we were filming in 8K RAW for over 10 hours and we had zero problems at all. Compared to our Canon R5 production that we did last year, we barely made it through 15 minutes. Well, you guys know what happened. Another feature that makes the R5C earn its cinema badge is that it actually has timecode. Now, what's great about the R5C's timecode is that not only can it receive timecode, but it can also generate, which is very useful. Remember when I said that this is the first true hybrid camera? Now, what I meant by that is that the R5C essentially has two operating systems built into one body. Now, with the flip of a switch, I can set this to photo mode, and now I have a 45 megapixel photography beast of a camera. Now, if I switch this over to video, I now have an 8K RAW cinema camera monster that is incredible. In photo mode, we have the traditional Canon menu system that we all know and love. It's simple, clean, very easy to use, and it just works. Now flip it to video and you get the menu system that you'd expect from a Canon cinema camera like the C200, C70, or C500 Mark II. But it's not just changing the way the menu system works, it's fundamentally changing the way the camera operates. For example, in video mode, you're getting those true cinema features. For example, you have no record limit, shutter angle, false color, waveforms, among other things. Additionally, the autofocus changes between modes. In video, you get the traditional cinema style autofocus that is more natural and feels like almost somebody is rack focusing for you. Where on photo mode, you get this snappy, more accurate autofocus that Canon is known for. Now, what Canon has done here is giving us a sense that we're getting two cameras in one body. Now, personally, I don't claim to be a photographer and I rarely take any pictures, so I feel that I'm not taking full advantage of the hybrid capabilities of this camera. However, my friend Cam Mackey, who has actually owned the R5C since day one, is an amazing photographer, cinematographer, and I wanted to get his take on it.
All right, guys, what's up? My name's Cam Mackey. I'm a photographer slash filmmaker. Armando invited me to pop in on this video because he knows I'm obsessed with the R5C. But my previous setup was the red Komodo and the R5. Obviously the Komodo was A-cam and the R5 was either on a gimbal or just had a telephoto lens so I could punch in for tighter detail shots. Most of the stuff I'm shooting, it's a lot of run and gun, fast pace. You need to get in there and get your shot and then get out so the other team could get in there. The Komodo was great, but there was a lot of times where I just ended up picking up the R5 just because of the autofocus and the smaller setup and the screen that's already on it. It was just more convenient, which I was always bummed though because the quality just didn't equal up to the red Komodo. Fast forward, when the R5C came out and I tried it, I was dumbfounded by not only just the performance of it, but also how much more better the files look than the R5. But the most important thing is the RAW performance. For some reason, the RAW seems a lot more capable on this camera. It seems a lot more realistic and usable. And when I was matching up to the Komodo, yes, the red Komodo does have a specific look that I did like a tiny bit more. But with the RAW capabilities on here, you're easily able to match it and get it pretty damn close. So I just think it's personally crazy that in my experience, this camera has great autofocus. And we now have the Canon cinema menus on here. And all those tools really help when you're doing those fast-paced gigs. Having false color and just shutter angle and everything. Just, I think the best way I could sum it up is the R5C is basically the R5 and the Komodo combined. So for me, it's pretty much the perfect camera. So, but yeah, I gotta go catch a flight. So thanks, Armando. Peace.
So let's talk about our production using the Canon R5C. Now in our short film, early on we decided that we wanted to use a shoulder rig setup. And the reason being is because we're filming a psychological thriller and we wanted to portray a little bit of uneasiness through the camera's perspective. Now you'll often hear people complain that the R5C does not have IBIS, though I'd argue that that's actually a good thing. Most people using this camera will be using it in a production setting, meaning you'll have access to like Steadicam, sliders, jibs, gimbals, or even shoulder-mounted setups. Therefore, IBIS is kind of obsolete and could possibly even hinder the image. Now the shoulder-mounted rig we used is from our friend and channel sponsor Condor Blue. We used the ultimate rig setup with the shoulder pad air, which actually was very comfortable to use. The Condor Blue ultimate rig allowed us to customize the R5C to perform exactly how we needed it for that day. One of my favorite features using their shoulder rig is the adjustable rosette grips. Funny enough, for one of the FPV shot of Charles, where we had all of the actors cycle through his vision, we had them hold onto the grips to simulate the characters attempting to wake up Charles. And I think the scene turned out great. I think if you're using the Canon R5C in any professional environment, I'd highly recommend that you check out Condor Blue. I really love how they take our input as filmmakers and incorporate those changes into their designs. And an example of this is their new R5C cage design. Since our shoot several months ago, they've actually completely redesigned it specifically for cinema workflows. And these new changes include a custom sensor plane marker bolt for measuring focus. You also have an open front design, which is compatible with all drop and filter adapters, which means that you don't have to take the adapter out to change out the filter. Something else that you'll notice is the new mid-rail, which is going to help rigidity on larger camera builds. This also supports PL lens adapters. You also have NATO rails on every side and a removable ARCA plate for gimbal work with a built-in hex tool to remove it. Now, if you guys are interested in picking up one of these new cages, there will be a link down below, and for a limited time only, there's a pre-order discount, so make sure you take advantage of this because this is a limited time only. So I'm gonna leave links to all of the gear that we used down below. Now, one of the things that really concerned me in our production was the battery life. You've probably seen reviews on the R5C saying how the battery life is so atrocious, reminding me of the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 4K when it first came out, where it would get 20 to 30 minutes. But in our testing, the battery life was actually outstanding. But let me explain. If you're using the internal LP6N battery in video, you're going to get about 20-ish minutes. But let's be real, this is a cinema camera, which most likely if you're using it in a production, you're going to be using a V-mount battery because you most likely will have an external monitor, possibly a wireless transmitter, or even a follow focus unit. You're also going to be powering the camera with the V-mount battery, and realistically, in a production, you won't be powering it using this battery. In fact, if you compare this camera's power draw to say a C500 Mark II or C200 or even a C70, I would dare say that it performs on par, if not better than those cameras. And if you think about it, it makes sense. If you try to power a Canon C500 Mark II with this little tiny ass battery, I bet you it would only last 5 minutes. So the fact that the Canon R5C lasts as long as it does with its capabilities, I think is actually pretty impressive. That being said, I do feel that Canon should have redesigned the body to accommodate a different type of battery. You know, Canon tends to do these really weird design choices that makes me wonder, who's making these decisions?
Ew. Jesse.
Like Canon, you had the opportunity to redesign the R5 to the R5C, and overall you made some really good design changes. But come on, micro HDMI? Nobody, and I mean nobody, wants a micro HDMI, but you decided to keep it! So here we are. Now, on a positive note, one thing that has gotten significantly better is the image quality. Not only do you get dual native ISO, the dynamic range has also improved, but more importantly, the low light is much cleaner, and this was very apparent when I was color grading the footage. In the scene where Charles is walking down the alley, it was very dark, and as you can see, there's no noise and still plenty of detail in the shadows that I can actually recover. This is great because with the R5, I don't think I would have gotten this clean of an image, so it's nice to see that Canon has actually optimized the R5C for better image quality. In fact, if you want to play around with this footage yourself, I'm going to leave a link down below to some examples from our production. Now, I will say that these 8K RAW files are massive, so just keep that in mind when you're downloading this footage. Now, in our production, we utilized 1.5 terabytes of storage. Now, luckily, our friends over at Angelbird sent over these CF Express Type B cards. These are 2 terabytes, which was really nice because we didn't really have to worry about running out of storage. So big thanks to them for sending these out. So who's the Canon R5C for? In my opinion, it's not for the vlogger YouTuber that's gonna need a camera that's gonna last all day and it's gonna be lightweight, because we all know for video, you're going to need to rig this out. In my opinion, this is for the indie filmmaker, the person shooting a documentary or is doing real production work, who's also going to benefit from its photo capabilities. Also, I find that the autofocus in video mode is not robust enough for the run and gun style that vloggers and most YouTubers rely on. Overall, the R5C is one of the best cameras that Canon has ever made. Not only do you get the DNA of Canon's best cinema line of cameras, but you also get it on the photo side too, making this camera very special. Now, if you guys like this video, you're going to love this one. My name is Armando. Thanks again for watching, and you will catch me in the next one. Adios.